Greetings, welcome to the monthly meeting of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority of Cook County. Wednesday, February 19th. I note the presence of a quorum here, Commissioners Olson, Hanson, O'Brien, and Gabler. I acknowledge the presence of the county commissioners, Gamble and Sullivan. Thanks for your support and being here. First item is approval of the agenda. And I would like to add a consideration of an EDA issue at the Four Directions Housing in Lutzen. They're looking for our thoughts on this. It would occur under new business at the end of new business. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Great. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Approval of January 15th, 2025 special meeting minutes. They're pretty succinct, but we could use a motion to approve those. And
I'll move approval.
thank you.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion on those minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Then we're to the approval of January 15th, 2025 regular meeting minutes, which is more complex and certainly had a few more things in it, but could we get a motion for that?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opportunity for public comment. This is a regular feature of our meeting. Anybody here want to address the commission from the audience? Hearing none, we'll move to new business. Item A, under new business, approval of policy for paid time off employee sick and safe time. That was really mandated by the state legislature in 2023. Starting for 2024, we were totally covered in 2024 with our PTO and leave and that kind of thing. But I just thought it would be best to have a formal policy, and so the Freiberger Law Firm produced the policy that's attached here. And any questions on that policy? Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve the policy.
And I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further comments? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item B, a significant item here, approval of the contract with Jeffrey Brand as our executive director. And I can just report on behalf of the Personnel Committee that we gave this a lot of consideration, and we've used the same format for the agreement that we used with Jason Hale. And so I think that we're excited to have an executive director at this stage. Believe me, I'm excited. He'll be doing the minutes from now on. But any thoughts or questions for us or for Jeffrey? Is there a motion to approve his agreement?
I'll move to approve it.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Welcome.
Any opposed? Jeff, come on up. You got a name plate already here for you. Thanks to Ann Sullivan. Ann was Johnny on the spot, or Sally on the spot, in terms of producing new white placards. I've got what Jason had, and they're pretty ratty by now. But anyway. Secondly, or item C actually is approval of the contract with Jason Hale for consulting services during the transition. The contract lasts through the end of 2025. He's cut us a discount of a third on his consulting rate, and, which was, I thought, nice of him, and we really need him to, as we get in, because he's got, honestly, some of the information on these projects in his head, and he's acknowledged that, so we've got plenty of documentation, but I think for Jeff's sake and for ours, we needed a contract with Jason, so the contract is attached. Any motion on that contract?
I'll move approval.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the item? If not, let's call the question, and all those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And D is a related resolution that we need to produce for Grand Marais State Bank for the signatories for the account. Right now, I'm the only signatory on their bank account, and that's really not comfortable, not just for me, but for you. And it really is. So the changes designate the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary as signatories. And so if this gets approved, we'll have to produce the minutes fairly quickly because we need to get over to Grand Marais State Bank, and they want the resolution, and then we can proceed with, each one of you can just show up at your leisure to put your John Hancock on the account. So with that, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the resolution expanding the signature rights at Grand Marais State Bank.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? If not, let's call the question again. All those in favor of Resolution 25-2, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Then we're coming to what's left under new business is the one-roof housing development in Lutzen, and they're having difficulty renting units, and it's costing them a lot of money, and that's not in anybody's favor. So they've made a proposal here on what they would hope that the EDA would do. So it's actually an EDA issue, but Heidi is here to walk us through this and just try to get our opinions on it. But Heidi.
Well, I met most of you back in November, so hello again, except Commissioner Gamble.
Yeah.
I'm Heidi. So I'm back, and this isn't a new issue. This has come before the EDA before, this exact issue about vacancies. So I just wanted to back up a little bit. We at the EDA just thought it would be good practice to come, now that the HRA is in existence, to come to the HRA to weigh in on housing issues, because you're the housing experts, as opposed to us at the EDA. Many of the agreements, the grant and loan agreements, that the HRA, for HRA projects, had to go through the EDA because the HRA wasn't able to apply, for whatever reason, for however the HRA was formed or whatever. So the EDA applied basically as the fiscal agent. So all of the important documents are through the EDA. So for instance, I signed, EDA President Peter and I signed a $1.3 million loan agreement last month for an HRA project. So those sorts of things are happening, and so in the future we will be coming back for the HRA's weigh in on these sorts of things, and this is one of them. So we met with meaning Peter Clissold and I met with Brooke Tapp, Dakota Soul, and Chad Dittman of One Roof Community Housing back in January to discuss two of their requests. The first request was, which the HRA already weighed in on recently, about allowing One Roof Community Housing to sell off that that vacant remnant parcel that's next to these 16 unit workforce housing units. And so that was their first request, removing restrictions. And then the second request is the one that's before you today, and that is regarding the reoccurring vacancies in at least one of the units in the 16-unit project in Lutzen, right next door to that vacant piece. This isn't the first time they've had problems filling this unit. The EDA amended they've amended agreements in the past to accommodate. So this keeps coming back. And so just wanted to put it out there that as We're on One Roof has come to the EDA asking or requesting, we've tried to respond as soon as possible, and coming to the EDA first and then, or coming to the HRA first and then going back. And then EDA will basically, whatever the HRA says, the EDA just puts it through. So that's why I'm here. The request looks like you have the hard copies. The request came from the executive director of One Roof Community Housing. You have it in front of you, so I don't really think I need to go through it unless you want me to for those at home. But basically, they're asking for more amendments to the agreement. And this time, they're asking for some flexibility on 4 of the units rather than just 1. In the past, they've come back just asking for help with 1. Now they want to have more flexibility on 4 of the 16 units.
Just a question about what are the, I'm just a little confused about the effect of waiving the workforce house restrictions. So if they've had difficulty renting 1 or 4 of these units and the restrictions are removed, what specific restrictions are standing in the way of getting those units leased up?
There are several restrictions based on the subsidy that the developer received when they built the project. So because taxpayer funds and subsidies were provided, that's why these restrictions are here in the first place. So are you asking what the specific?
What are the restrictions?
The renters work in Cook County.
And there's 8 units that are spoken for by employers.
I can't remember how many.
It's 8, at least 4 for Lutzen Mountains and 4 for Caribou Highlands, I think. And I'm assuming they just keep paying if they can't fill their units. But is that correct? Do you know?
I don't remember the amount of that are, if it's 8 or what it is. But this new request would be similar to that existing agreement where the employer would sign the lease agreement with the property owner, and so they would be on the line to pay the rents for instead of the renters.
And the change is that I'm just trying to understand the change that's being proposed here. And the change is just that the employer could be an employer not just in the West End, but an employer anywhere.
Yes, and from what I understand, not just in Cook County. But I might be wrong on that.
I think that's pretty clear in there, that they're looking for, at least as I was reading it, the ability to rent to people who are working in Cook County, possibly, but their employers are not Cook County construction people, mostly is what I kind of gathered is the.
Right.
But correct me if I'm wrong on it, but I think
I
that's-
will say that they were invited to be here, and so I apologize that I can't express their exact request as well as they probably could.
So it sounds like it's not something that's going to negatively affect the income for the units, other than to fill units that are vacant now, but the rent level will remain roughly the same.
Correct.
It's just eligibility is being changed to include employers outside of Cook County or.
Exactly.
So if I remember correctly, when these were built, the idea of the covenants was to keep people from renting them as second homes or vacation homes.
Yep.
And this doesn't in any way allow that. This is just to allow workers who may or may not be employed by employers that are based in Cook County but still work and live here. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Well, I'd have to say that One Roof has been a stellar partner in Cook County between
Absolutely.
the Section 8 project, family project, and the four directions units. And it's in nobody's interest to see them starting to have financial trouble, as long as as I read this, they're.
More financial
Yeah,
trouble.
more yeah, that's about right. But as I see this, it's more, they will continue to give any priority to people from Cook County and employers from Cook County. But after a certain amount of time, if the units are still vacant, that they could make some alternative accommodations. And
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I may.
Sure.
Identifying the requested amendments so that the board is clear on that is important. The other thing is that looking at the intention when One Roof was put in, and my first term, it was during that term that it was put in, and we were looking for housing options for employers. And if it's a technical issue relative to where the company is not located in our county, outside of the county, but it's still workers that are working within the county, then I would say the intention is still being met to create housing for workers in Cook County. And so in that regard, if it's a technicality in the way that the language was drafted, I think the language could be clear to ensure that we're still meeting the objective and make the language consistent with objective. The other issues are relative to what the other requests are, as was alluded to, if we were, doing something that was, outside of. Then the other component that, from my standpoint, is I would want to know, and the board probably is privy to this, the history of occupation as to where we're seeing, the deficiencies and what's causing that. And if there's something that we can do that won't compromise original intent and still, find that medium so that you have increased occupancy. But the reason I bring it up is from the standpoint of we do not have housing, and we've been saying that for years and years and years. And if we create housing and it's not occupied, why is that? And if it's because we've made it too restrictive, then it would be helpful to understand in what capacity that's affecting the ability to create occupancy. Anyway, thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments, commissioners?
I understand now. Does this have a resolution number, or do we just?
No, it's just.
Just accept the request?
The motion to accept
Okay.
and say aye to the EDA making these changes
Okay.
in their covenants to One Roof, the One Roof housing development there.
All right, well said. I'll so move.
Thanks. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Just a discussion point. I mean, I guess this is formally actually a decision. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. A moment for discussion?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I think.
Is there further discussion?
There we go. I didn't wait for the cue. No, I think that this is actually, so this is a decision that's to be made by the EDA, looking with input from the HRA. I'd like to get more background information. It can be a follow-up, but I'd like to get more background information on the on the existing restrictions of the workforce restrictions, and sort of better understand what the restrictions have been, why they've been onerous, and what the proposed outcome, what the new flexibility will allow, and just to make sure that it's still aligned, as Commissioner Gamble said, with the original intent. So, with that, that's it.
If I could add to that further discussion, the EDA itself had many, many questions as well about exactly along those lines, and so definitely get all that information from the property owner and forward it on to both bodies. But
That'd
the
be
EDA
great.
will be, now that you've recommended approval to the EDA will be passing a resolution at their next meeting on March 18th for this. At the same time, all that extra info will be coming forward, and I'll pass it along to you for your March meeting.
That'd be good. And we do recognize our obligation in these projects where we were the creator of them, but we have to use the EDA as the applicant, which is, I don't fully understand, why Minnesota Housing Finance Agency, for example, takes that approach, but I do understand the IRRR because that's what they've done for, their whole history, and so it's hard to change, but it's just, but we do recognize that we've got an obligation to. And I think it'll become really clear on the prevailing wage question, to be honest. And thanks for the information on that, Heidi, appreciate it. Any further discussion on the motions? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now I want to introduce Chris Verda of the Freiberger Law Firm in Duluth, and he is our counsel and has been. And this is again in the manner of trying to get our policies and procedures straight so that we don't run afoul of anything, especially a law. But and the open meeting law is one of those, as well as some of the conflicts of interest. We do have a conflict of interest policy, and everybody fills them out. But so, Chris, I appreciate your being here. Thanks, and nice to meet you in person. And
yeah, nice to meet you in person as well. Thank you for having me here today. This is the first opportunity I've had to attend a meeting in person, although, as mentioned, I've been doing work in the background via phone and email for about 3 years now, I believe. So I'm looking forward to do, get some new projects off the ground here in the near future with the new director. So I look forward to growing that relationship. With respect to the open meeting law, the purpose of it really is so that the general public and the media has an opportunity to be present when the board is conducting public business. There's very few exceptions for when the board could close a meeting. Generally speaking, that's to discuss real estate transactions, personnel matters, and labor negotiations. Now, when you close a meeting, you have to expressly state, under what authority you're closing the meeting. The general nature of what's going to be discussed. And then during that closed session, it's only a discussion. So any official business would have to happen. Any decisions would be made once you've reopened the meeting. Potential violations to the open meeting law can occur outside of a regular meeting if by chance, there's a quorum of board members present at, say, a social function, and business of the HRA gets discussed. It's not necessarily a problem that all of you happen to be at the same social function, but I just caution you to make sure that you don't discuss any matters that are being considered by the board at the time. The same goes for email correspondence. So if there's an email chain that happens to have a quorum of the board connected to that email chain, you have to be careful about discussing official business of the HRA. So because that would also be a potential violation. And the same goes for in social media forums. If there's a quorum participating in some sort of discussion. So those are things just to be careful of. That's not to say that you can't discuss HRA business outside of a regular meeting. It's just a quorum can't be participating in that discussion. So a smaller group could definitely have a conversation, and that would be just fine.
Excuse me, just to clarify, so my understanding is if the executive director, for instance, sends out an email asking for the opinion of the board, the protocol is that you respond individually to the executive director, not reply all?
Yes,
Yeah.
that is correct, yep.
Just to be clear, that seems like a common mistake. So easy to click reply all, you know?
Yeah, and of course, mistakes happen, but yeah, that's a good rule of thumb, make sure to just reply directly. You know, with respect to conflicts, that's a tough thing, especially in areas where, you know, it's a smaller population, you have lots of people wearing multiple hats, and so it's something that if you feel that there's a potential conflict, it's quick to flag that right away, and hopefully not at the meeting when some sort of official board action is going to be taken related to that. Conflicts, there's really not a clear, bright line guidance provided by the state, unfortunately. There's various court decisions, so conflicts can really be a very fact-intensive and kind of a situation by situation, you know, requiring its own analysis. That being said, at a minimum, if there is something of a conflict, the bare minimum action would be to, you know, let the board know about it, so make sure that it's on the record of the potential conflict, abstaining from any discussion and abstaining from voting on the matter itself. So that would be the bare minimum, but that's to say that there are situations and conflicts that could require further action and that wouldn't be sufficient.
Jeff, I've been in conflict situations on other boards many times, and generally speaking, my approach was simply to leave the meeting when the issue is being discussed, not discuss it, and you can't abstain, that's a vote. You have to not vote and have to be recorded as not voting. At least that was my understanding of how the stuff works, and so far I'm here, not in jail, so that's a good thing.
And I apologize, yeah, not
That's
abstain,
okay.
that was probably poor word choice on my part.
If you recuse yourself.
Yeah, and then, you know, it's a majority of those present and voting on the issue, so you don't need to have 3 votes if 2 are, you know, conflicted on something. And I'm happy to know that Robert's Rules of Order has a special section for smaller boards as opposed to larger boards, and I've recalled that in the past too. Sorry.
So, and that's about all I have. That was kind of the 10,000 foot level, just overview. But you know, if there's, like I said, a potential conflict, you know, happy to please flag it and let the director know, and then they'll refer it to us, and we'll look into it to see what the proper course of action would be.
You know, it also seems that intent is an important aspect of the potential violations of open meeting and laws and stuff, that, you know, a slip up that wasn't intended to be, you know, something that's really purposeful, I guess, is probably not going to raise much concern, but it's best to stay away from a lot of that anyway. But. And I'm assuming our new executive director's had enough experience with open meeting laws, and so that's a good thing for us. Any questions for Jeff, or Chris rather, or Jeff, I guess, but Chris is in front of us, so. Heidi, you can weigh in too if you want, but.
Yesterday, the EDA received a one-pager on open meeting law. So it's same thing, same discussion.
Okay,
Yep.
good. Maybe you'd share that with us. We'll send it around. Well, thanks a lot, Chris. Appreciate your being here. Next item is discuss the need for an update of the 2023 strategic plan. It was late in 2023 that we updated the plan. I can't remember, maybe November or so, but the times were different then, to be honest. Federal money was flowing, and there were exciting opportunities for projects, and I think that's going to be more problematic in the future, and I'd like to, at some point, have a meeting of the board to just talk about those issues. I did reach out to the Minnesota Housing Partnership, who led us through the first strategic plan, and back in 2021 or 2. They don't have money for it right now, and I'm thinking this isn't, really a major redo. It just ought to be a discussion. But if anybody has any ideas, if there's a local person who might be good at something like just helping us identify, what are the issues, help the discussion along, and that would be a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
As to invite into the discussion. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, or facilitate.
Well, to facilitate really is what I'm thinking,
Okay.
and so take the old plan, from 2023, know what it's about, and then facilitate our discussion of where do we want to go from here, because that's really our decision. And I think we need discussion because things have changed. And Commissioner Gamble.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, as a recommendation, if you have a facilitator who knows processes, but you inform basically so that your plan is defined based upon your information and your goals and things, but a facilitator would facilitate the process, but you basically are putting the information in there. They're not defining that for you. If
Right.
that's what you're experienced with before.
That's not their job.
That's a big, yeah, that's right.
And we're not starting from square one, right? We have a strategic plan, we're just
Yeah.
looking at it to see what's changed, what do we need to update. The kind of the obvious choice would be Mary Sondas, who's a former commissioner of the HRA, former executive director of the EDA, long experience in government service with the IRRR. Would be very, there'd be no learning curve for her.
Well, that's true.
And she's a great facilitator.
Yeah, the question will be whether she's available. I know her situation has improved, but it's still, she's got a long way to go to
Yeah,
be in the Twin Cities. And
but we're looking at like a one-day thing here.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
half a day maybe.
Yeah.
But I
she'd
appreciate the
probably be a-
suggestion there.
I would agree with Bill.
Well, I'll contact Mary and see what her thinking
She's
is,
willing.
and see if we can do something and get a date. Herd the cats. Anything else on that discussion? Next item is financials. Perhaps Commissioner O'Brien, you could walk us through. It looks like we have a lot of money in the bank.
Yeah, no, the financials were attached in the board packet. I don't know if there's any specific questions, but included in there is a balance sheet which shows that, currently the balance in the Grand Rate Savings Bank account is $568,901, and then there's a money market account with $105,000, $467. In addition to that, there's the statement of activity that just goes through, and it's most of it's pretty straightforward in terms of the individual checks that were written over the last month or so. Total revenues over the course of the year was $127,000. Let's see, I don't have more of a prepared presentation, Bill, but that's,
Okay.
if there's any questions about it, I can either answer those or follow up with
Well, one of the things that Jason left me with was to record a document that had been fully executed. He just didn't have time to get to it. So that next Monday, I showed up at the recorder's office and they asked, gee, do you know that you have a post box here in the courthouse? I said, no. And they said, well, so they were nice enough to go get the stuff out of our, and there was a check for $127,000 of property taxes. And so I'll be, the executive director can be a little more regular on checking that account. But,
That's the revenue- that was the revenue that we talked about earlier.
yeah. Any other topics from the commissioners that we would want to put on there? If none, the committee reports, I think basically the committee is, our personnel committee is met, and that's, the result is Jeff being here, so we consider that a successful committee effort, so.
Grateful.
Yeah. Commissionerized items, there's one thing that Jana told us, that we cannot be in this room for the July meeting. We'll be next door across the hall in the ITB room. And I think I'll have to go back and look, or ask Jason, but I think there's no camera there, so that I think we've just recorded the oral part of the meeting. Jason did, but we'll check on that. But just be aware that the July meeting will not be in this room.
July.
Any other items? Hearing none. Is there a move to adjourn?
So move. When is our next meeting?
It's right at the bottom of the agenda, March 19th,
right.
Wednesday,
Gotcha.
March 19th.
And that is here.
Yeah,
So move.
all right. Is there a second to that?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye.
Aye. Welcome, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, you'll be a busy fella for a while here.
Busy is good.
And